Hey guys, it's the Pink King here, and today I thought we'd do a little bit of a different video, as the Misfits Prime card is upon us. It's less than a week away now, and if you might be watching my channel, you see I make these trailers for Misfits. I'm a big fan of them, so considering this is going to be the biggest card in not only Misfits history, but influencer boxing history, I thought I'd make a prediction video. Tell me who you think is going to win in the comments right now, and let's get right into who I think is going to win. The first fight is going to be SX versus DTG. DTG has fought before. He has fought against Halal Ham, to my knowledge. I think that's his only fight. He lost that fight, but it was a very close fight. Some people say he won, and this is SX on his debut. Now, coming from SX, he doesn't really look the part for a fighter, but he's been training with shoot fighters, people who train KSI and Idris Virgo, and they never let a fighter go in unprepared. And for such a wild card fight, this could be a real slugfest. If this goes all the way, it will be a definite slugfest. But for me, I'm going to give it to SX just because of that shoot fighters gym and the fact that DTG hasn't looked impressive at all, and he's been out the game for over a year now. So first fight, I think SX wins. Astrid Wet versus Alexia Grace. Oh god, this fight was meant to happen a few months ago. In fact, it was meant to happen on the day I uploaded my Puzzle Pieces episode 3. I watched that stream, and yeah, you could say it ended a bit badly. Yeah, but my opinion hasn't changed ever since then. I think this is going to be a comfortable win for Astrid Wet. She's had way more experience. She's already become the Misfits Women's Champ once. And, you know, this is Alexia Grace's debut. So, and also all the bad blood, I think this is going to be a clear-cut decision for Astrid Wet. Probably by stoppage. I'm gonna say Astrid Wet by early stoppage. Ryan Taylor versus Swarms 2. The Madman versus the Headbutt King. A fight that I at first had no interest in, you know, considering how the first one went. But then after all the build-up, I've gotten way interested into this fight now. And Ryan Taylor, this is his first fight since January, since fighting Swarms with the One Punch Man. And Swarms, he's been very active recently, and against some really tough guys. He went the distance against Deji right after, back in May, and right after that he went for the Survivor tag versus 3 other people, and arguably was close to winning. So I think this time it's going to be very different. It's not going to be that one punch KO again. But I think it's going to be Swarms on decision. I think it's going to be a split decision win for Swarms. Chase Demore versus Tempo Arts. The battle of the heavy boys. The heavyweights. Now, this one's actually a tough fight to call. You know, with Chase Demore, he's had way more fights. He's had 3 Misfits fights, but he's not looked impressive. He has not looked impressive. He has got no wins. But he's fought against some really tough people like Josh Bruckner and Alan Belcher. But he hasn't won a fight. And although he's never been stopped, he's just, if you watch his fight, he's literally iconic or infamous for his bad fighting style. If someone teaches this man the proper basics of boxing, he's a threat. But right now, I'm going to have to give it to Tempo Arts. He only has 2 fights, 1 Misfits fight, where he won pretty convincingly. He stopped Godson very convincingly. So I think Tempo Arts will win via unanimous decision, because Chase Demore just doesn't go down.
Adversary, 'tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off. No, it isn't. Well, what's that then?
Now we get on to the main card. The tag team match. WasabiELO versus Los Pinakadas. Now obviously 2 guys again from Misfits 008. We have Nick Lamau and B Dave. Nick Lamau, already very impressive for only having 2 fights. He's naturally gifted and very talented. Alex Wasabi, also quite talented when it comes to the scene. B Dave and Pineda, obviously they have fought together, both once at each other and then one with each other in the first tag team match. and they looked really good together, you know, with Pineda using his jab and much more of the technical fighter, meanwhile B-Dave was much more of the bulldozer. But Wasabi LMAO will have a lot more skill overall, but it's just a matter, does two skilled fighters beat one skilled and one brawler? That's the real question. If they're able to stop the bulldozing from B-Dave, then I think it'll be a clear win for Wasabi LMAO. But for me, just because they've already done it before and they've already looked really good together, I'm going to give this win to Los Pinakadas by decision. Another wildcard fight. Whindersson Nunes versus my mate Nate. Two guys who have fought Kenny on the Kingpin when that was still alive, and both guys lost. Although my mate Nate lost worse because he got knocked out in the second round. Nothing to be ashamed of. Obviously we know Kenny now is a much different beast, but my mate Nate hasn't fought since, but he's been in the gym, he's been working hard. Whindersson Nunes has one really good win on the first Kingpin and one pretty embarrassing loss against Kenny. So I think it's just a matter of who's going to turn up better on the night, who's going to be the more confident on the night. To me, I think I'm going to edge it to Whindersson just because he's got a much stronger chin, and as we saw in his first fight on Kingpin, he's got a very strong jab and he's got some hidden technique that he just wasn't able to do against Kenny. So I think this fight is probably going to be round 3 stoppage for Whindersson. I'm going to say round 3 stoppage for Whindersson. Speaking of Kenny, we have King Kenny versus Anthony Taylor. A very hyped up match. Obviously, Kenny coming off 2 very impressive wins on Kingpin, and Anthony Taylor coming off a stunning upset against Salt Pappy. Now this fight to me is a 50-50 because on the paper Anthony Taylor should win. He should win. He's the pro fighter. He beat Salt Pappy, one of the most feared fighters in the scene. But here's the thing, I have Kenny winning this. I think Kenny is going to win on points by decision, and I'll tell you why. Kenny is a much more technical fighter. I think he's probably the most technical fighter in the influencer scene right now. I think that he's probably one of the most likely to be a pro. And Anthony Taylor, he was struggling against Salt Pappy, and if the fight was longer than 3 rounds, I think Salt Pappy would have taken it in the end. Although Anthony Taylor, he has a strong chin, not even Tommy Fury could put him down. No one's been able to put him down. He's got a lot of heart. But to me, I think Kenny's going to win this. I think he wants this more. I think he's more dedicated. And I think he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder to prove. Ever since the Raksu loss, he's always just had that reminder on him. So now it's time for him to get back on Misfits and get his first win back. So to me, I'm having this as King Kenny by unanimous decision. One of the most hyped fights ever. Salt Pappy versus Slimmy Slim Slim. Ooh, this is a tough fight, you know. This is a really tough fight. This fight will not go the distance. I can guarantee you this fight will not go the distance. Both guys have tremendous power. Slim coming off a very unimpressive win over Tom Zanetti and being out the game for a while. And obviously Salt Pappy coming off a loss to Anthony Taylor. Both guys are definitely the fittest they have ever been. But I think the matter of this is who's going to be able to take the punch the best. Who's going to be able to keep rolling with the punches. That's what I think this fight's going to come down to. Who's got the stronger chin. This middleweight is much more of Slim's weight. This is much more of his playground. He's much more used to fighting at that weight. So I think Slim has the advantage of fighting at his natural weight. This is going to be Salt Pappy's first time at middleweight. And I don't know whether or not his chin is going to hold up as strong in middleweight as he did when he was heavier. Although I think Salt Pappy has much more strength and KO power. And I think for me, if Slim shows up to the night like he did against Tom Zanetti, then he's losing. I think he'll lose. To me, I have Salt Pappy winning by 2nd round KO. I've got Salt Pappy winning by 2nd round KO. Salt Pappy has proven that he can knock out bigger and lankier guys, and him having an incredible body transformation just shows he's been really dedicating himself. And after hearing his entire story as to how he's been able to transform ever since his last fight back in May, it's really incredible. He's almost unrecognizable from when he last fought. And I can just tell that he's hungry and he's desperate to get that win. And I don't think Slim's going to be able to handle that pressure. We saw what happened against people like Tom Zanetti, people who weren't that strong necessarily, but who were high on pressure, but not really that strong to back it up. Slim got in trouble a little bit. He was pushed against the ropes, he was very battered, and his defense is almost non-existent. Slim has a real chance here at beating Salt Pappy, but I think Salt Pappy is going to take this win. I'm going to change my result. I'm going to change it to 3rd round KO for Salt Pappy. One of the fights I'm most excited for, Dean the Great vs Waleed Sharks 2. The first fight, highly entertaining and highly controversial. This rematch needed to happen. It needed to happen. And it's about time we finally get it to happen. Dean has much more heart than Waleed, but Waleed is much more of a skilled fighter. Now to me, I have this fight going one way and one way only. I'm taking Waleed Sharks by revenge. I think Waleed is going to get that revenge because ever since they first fought each other back in November of last year, I think Waleed has been the only one out of the two of them to show improvement. When he fought APAP and when he fought in the tag team match, he looked very improved. He looked much better than he did against Dean, who looked much more tactical, looked much more stronger. And Dean kinda hasn't really been improving that much. Of course, after he fought Waleed Sharks, he then fought Puli Arif, and that fight should not have gone on for as long as it did, considering the skill level of Puli Arif. And even in the tag team match, Dean did not look that great in the tag team match. He wasn't getting a lot of good shots in, he was kind of getting hit way more than he needed to, and getting outshined essentially by Waleed and Yuddy Gang TV. So for me, I think Waleed Sharks takes the win, this time by 3rd round stoppage. I'm gonna say he takes it by 3rd round stoppage, just because of how personal it is now. This is personal for Waleed. He's been wanting this rematch ever since it first happened back in November. He's been desperate for it and he's worked hard for it, so I think Waleed takes this. And then after this, I hope we see a 3rd fight, maybe a main event. We get that trilogy going. The co-main event and the most controversial fight on the card, Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis. Now, excluding all the memes or all the he said, she said sort of things, looking at this from a pure skill-based level, Logan Paul's winning this easy. He's obviously had way more boxing fights. He's looked really good in some of his boxing matches, way better than he really should be at that level. He's rarely been dropped. He's got a lot of power and he's quite slick with his movements, if though he can sometimes be very stiff and very over the top with his punches. But judging off all of Logan Paul's new sparring footage and all his new training footage, I think he's going to work Dylan Dennis's body if he even shows up. And with Dylan, I just don't see him winning this. I see him having no route to winning this. Unless his mental torture of Logan is that strong to the point where Logan just can't handle it, I don't see Dylan winning this at all. For every piece of boxing footage I've seen, he's got pillow hands. He doesn't have that strong of punches. And he's mainly a jiu-jitsu guy. He's mainly more of a grappler than he is a striker. And when you watch his sparring and training footage, you can definitely tell. Although you have to consider that Dylan's been getting in Logan's head very well. And I think both guys just have so much animosity for each other that it's going to be an absolute war. It's going to be brutal, fast, and chaotic. But in the end, I can only see one outcome. I see Logan Paul by 2nd round KO maybe. I think he's gonna KO Dylan Dennis with body shots. He's gonna pile them on to the point where Dylan Dennis is just gonna quit. And now we get to the main event and the fight I'm most excited for. KSI versus Tommy Fury. Everything on paper is saying Tommy, let's be honest. Everything is working for Tommy. He's much naturally bigger, he's got the weight advantage, he's got the size advantage, the reach advantage, he's also got the experience advantage. Also, not to mention, he's just come off a very nice win against Jake Paul, a fight that he was surprisingly the underdog in when they actually did manage to come across. But this time it's different, it's in his hometown. And with KSI, he's not a very technical boxer. He's not, and when I say technical, he does have technique. He's got a very specific style, but I mean in terms of traditional boxing, he's not all there, as we can all tell. But I think that's going to be his strongest point in this fight. I think KSI has a better chance of beating Tommy than Jake did. Reason being, Jake was trying to outbox the boxer. That is just something that just, no matter how long you've been fighting MMA guys, you're just not going to be able to do. You can't outbox the guy who's been literally breathing boxing ever since he could first walk. But with KSI, he's not looking to outbox Tommy, he's looking to drag him through the trenches. And as we've seen, he does have heart, he does have that dog in him, to the point where if he's desperate, he'll do absolutely anything to win. He's willing to die in that ring, no matter the cost, he'll be in there ready to take that win. And for me, I look at this fight like an amateur version of Tyson Fury versus Wilder. You know, we've got the much more slick and technical boxer versus the guy who's much more of a brawler and KO puncher. But here's the interesting part. I think most people just look at Fury and his, name and his family and think that he's all that, when in reality, if you look back at his past fights, he hasn't really been that impressive. Jake was able to knock him off balance with a good jab, and also both Tommy Fury and KSI have pretty much the same KO rate, which is crazy if you think about it. And if anything, KSI has been KOing more people than Tommy has recently. And judging off all the presser, Tommy looks really comfortable. He looks really, really calm, which could help him in this fight. But to me, I think he's just a little too comfortable, if that makes sense. I think he's underestimating KSI a bit, because after all, he's just beat the guy who everyone considers is the better boxer than KSI. So you're gonna have that confidence about it. But KSI, he has seen something in Tommy Fury that he can exploit, otherwise he wouldn't have taken this fight. Alongside with him being the underdog for the first time ever since he fought Logan Paul, I think this fight is not going to go the distance. I'd be surprised if this fight went the distance. Obviously, off everything we know, Tommy should win this. But I don't know, after everything I've seen from KSI, I think that he might be able to pull off the upset. And I know what you're going to say, I'm a KSI fanboy and that what, but to me, I think he might have seen something, and just seeing how hard he is training, he's definitely got something to prove, and I think there's going to be something hidden inside him that he's ready to unleash come October 14th. I think what this fight will come down to is how much Fury is willing to die in that ring. Tommy has never really been tested, he's never really been cracked in the ring. He's always had it very comfortably, and sometimes he's made fights that he should be easy for him way harder than it had to be for him. So if Tommy is unable to dig deep and willing to die in that ring, then I think he's probably going to lose. So, what do I predict this fight? A very controversial round 5 knockout for KSI. I've got KSI winning by 5th round knockout. I believe in the underdog, man. I believe in the underdog. So, those were my predictions for the KSI vs Tommy Fury, or the Prime card. Tell me, who do you have winning these fights? Are you going to watch this event? And I'll see you all with a much more normal video next time.